When Carl Met George is a brilliant episode of Arthur. This is the first segment in the sixth episode of the 13th season, and George is telling us about the time he met his friend Carl. And to begin with, Carl has some interesting quirks. George doesn't really think too much about them. But then one day he does something that really upsets Carl, and Carl kind of, to most people's eyes, overreacts. But George actually learns then that Carl has Asperger's syndrome, and the rest of the episode is him, mostly with the brain's help, learning about what Asperger's is and how a person with Asperger's might typically feel or what the world is like for them. And I think that that's such an important thing to do. Every now and then, Arthur will tackle some kind of health condition. We've had asthma with Buster, a peanut allergy with Binky, and now we're going into a slightly different realm with Asperger's, and I think it's something that obviously affects a lot of children, but maybe it can seem quite scary to other children if you're not exactly sure why that person is responding in the way that they are. And this helps to shed a little bit of light on that and kind of just, it actually goes into quite a lot of detail, but in very simple terms that the target audience, I think, can understand. But even for older viewers, if you're perhaps not that familiar with Asperger's, you don't know anybody with it, I think it can be a pretty solid introduction. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very important, very moving episode. Carl is a very likable character who I hope we see, again and again. I hope this is not just a one-time thing to educate the viewer on Asperger's. I hope it's something that a character we see just in the norm. It's why wouldn't there be a character with Asperger's? So hopefully he crops up again now and then. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very well constructed narrative. I thought George's reaction was pretty realistic. The way he responded when Carl first reacted in the way that he did, I think is exactly how an 8-year-old would react if they weren't aware of what was going on or why Carl was behaving in the way that he was. So I feel it's pretty realistic. It's very educational, well constructed narrative, very well developed, and I think it's got the tone perfectly. When Carl Met George is a pretty brilliant, very important episode.